Hi, my name is Caitlin, and I'm 28 years old. When I was very young, I lost my parents in a car accident. Since they didn't have any family to care for me, I was sent to live in an orphanage. I stayed there for about 4 years before I was adopted. My adoptive parents turned out to be billionaires, which completely changed my life. From then on, I lived a life full of comfort and opportunities. Despite their wealth, my adoptive parents didn't want my adoption to become a big deal, so they kept it private. They believed in doing good without seeking attention. When I became an adult and moved into my own home, my adoptive parents decided to expand their business. They went to Europe to look for new opportunities. Around this time, I met Adam, who later became my ex-husband. We first met in college, and I liked him immediately after a few conversations. Adam was cheerful and kind, and we quickly became close. As we started going on dates, we officially became a couple. Our relationship felt perfect, but there was one big problem. Adam's family didn't like me. The first time I met his family was after we graduated from college. Adam wanted to introduce me to his parents once we were both settled and had good jobs. He warned me that his parents were judgmental about who their children dated, and he wanted me to make a good impression. I was really nervous about meeting them. By the time Adam introduced me to his parents, we had been dating for 5 years and were already engaged. I worried this might make things more difficult since his parents didn't even know me as his girlfriend. The night before meeting them, I was anxious and spoke to Adam about it. "They're going to hate me," I told him. "They won't. I promise," Adam said, trying to calm me down. "Do you really think they won't be shocked when they find out we're engaged?" I asked. "Well, yeah, but I don't think it'll be that big of a deal." "Are you serious? You were nervous about introducing me to them because of how judgmental they are. Don't you think telling them we're engaged will make them judge me even more?" Adam sighed. "Look, even if they do judge, does it really matter what they think?" "It won't matter to me," I replied. "But I'm not so sure about you. You always seem so concerned about their opinions." Even though Adam reassured me, I couldn't shake my nerves. Meeting his family felt like walking into a test I wasn't prepared for, especially since their opinions seemed to matter so much to him. "I promise it won't bother me at all, Caitlin," Adam said confidently. "All right if you say so. But do you think we should wait a little before telling them we're engaged? Like maybe a month later?" I asked. "If that makes you feel better, I'm fine with whatever you decide," Adam replied. "I think we should keep it a secret for now, just in case." "I'll do anything to make a good impression on them," I said, trying to sound optimistic. "You don't have to worry. I'll be with you no matter what," Adam reassured me. "Thanks, Adam," I said, feeling slightly better. The main reason I was so nervous about meeting Adam's parents was because of how he reacted every time I brought up the idea of telling them about me. He would get upset and tell me they wouldn't approve. Over time, I began to understand why. Adam's family was very wealthy and loved living a life of luxury. They wanted the same for their children and only accepted them dating people who came from equally wealthy backgrounds or even wealthier. At that time, my life didn't fit their high standards of wealth. I hadn't told Adam much about my family because I didn't think it was necessary. By the time I realized why he was so hesitant to introduce me, I felt it was even less important to share details about my family background. I wanted them to like me for who I was, not because of my family's wealth or status. I foolishly believed they might value my personality and character over my financial situation. But I was wrong. Adam and I decided to meet his parents at a fancy restaurant. As we walked in, Adam held my hand tightly, which gave me some comfort. I wore my engagement ring on a chain around my neck instead of on my finger, hoping to keep it close but not too obvious. When we arrived at the table, I could tell right away that his parents were not happy. Adam had warned me they were strict about punctuality, and even though we were only 5 minutes late, they were already upset. As we sat down, his parents gave me a cold look, glancing me up and down with clear disapproval. They didn't say a word to me, and instead began talking with Adam as if I wasn't even there. I felt so small and out of place in their presence. The longer they ignored me, the more uncomfortable I felt. Their attitude made it clear that I didn't belong in their world, and I started to doubt whether they would ever accept me. It was heartbreaking to realize that they cared more about wealth and appearances than getting to know who I really was. The longer I sat there, the more I wanted to leave. I kept my head down, trying to avoid their cold stares. Finally, Adam spoke up, breaking the silence. "Mom, Dad, you can't just ignore Caitlin like this. She's my wonderful girlfriend," Adam said firmly. I tried to stay polite. "Oh, hello. It's a pleasure to meet both of you," I said, even though I couldn't honestly say I felt the same way. "Hi," his mom replied coldly. Her tone was icy, and it made me uneasy. "What?" she said, noticing my surprised look. "I'm just being honest." Then she turned to me. "So, Caitlin, I heard you and Adam met in college. Is that right?" she asked, keeping her tone sharp. "Yes, we did. We shared some classes," I replied, trying to sound calm. "And how did you manage to attend that college?" "From what I know, the tuition is quite high, and it's not easy to get in," his father added, his voice filled with suspicion. "Dad, that's enough," Adam interrupted, clearly frustrated. "You will not speak to your father like that," his mother said sharply. "It's a valid question. Caitlin, please answer him." "Well," I began nervously, "I received a full scholarship. I'm really thankful for it because not only did I get a great education, but I also met Adam, which has been one of the best things that's ever happened to me." "Of course, it's one of the best things for you," his mother sneered. "He's wealthy, and you probably need that kind of money. At least you're smart because, let's be honest, your looks aren't anything special." "That's enough," Adam said angrily, standing up. "We're leaving." "Come on, Caitlin." As we walked out, I was in shock. I couldn't believe how cruel they had been, especially to my face. It felt surreal, like something out of a bad dream. The car ride home was silent. Adam was furious, and I didn't know what to say. When we got home, Adam checked on me. "Are you okay?" he asked. But I didn't know how to answer. I had dressed nicely, made sure to be polite, and avoided doing anything that could upset them. Yet they had judged me, without even knowing me. After that terrible lunch, Adam didn't speak to his parents for weeks. They texted him, accusing us of being disrespectful for leaving the restaurant. Adam ignored them for a month, and only replied to tell them we were engaged. His parents were furious about the news. They offered to pay for our wedding, but only if they could control everything. Adam and I didn't want that, so we decided to elope instead. My adoptive parents were still in Europe, but they knew about our decision to elope. They were just happy that I had found someone who truly cared for me. In the end, Adam and I focused on what mattered most, our happiness, not the approval of others. I was happy when my adoptive parents sent Adam and me a gift after our elopement. Adam was surprised when we received an expensive painting from them, but I didn't think much of it. They had plenty of money, so I figured it wasn't a big deal for them. After we got married, Adam and I attended a party hosted by his parents, Jessica and Sam, to celebrate their anniversary. Even though they didn't seem to like me much, I was happy they invited me. I thought maybe this was a chance for things to improve. When we arrived, however, it was clear I wasn't welcome. Being ignored by his parents was one thing, but being ignored by nearly everyone at the party was far worse. No one made an effort to talk to me. I stayed close to Adam, hoping to feel less out of place, but whenever I tried to join a conversation, people would either glance at me, look me up and down, and walk away, or continue talking as if I wasn't even there. By the end of the night, I was holding back tears. I felt humiliated and disgusted by how I was being treated. As the evening was winding down, Jessica and Sam stood up to give a speech. I was tired and wanted to leave, but I stayed because it seemed important to Adam. During their speech, Jessica and Sam thanked everyone in the room for being such a meaningful part of their lives. It was a direct jab at me since they had made it obvious throughout the night that I didn't belong. Then, they started cracking jokes that made the crowd laugh. These weren't innocent jokes. They were clearly aimed at me. I felt crushed. At some point, I couldn't take it anymore. I quietly got up and left the party. I ordered an Uber and cried the entire ride home. When Adam got home later, he seemed upset. "Why did you walk out like that?" "Do you know how embarrassing that was for me?" he asked angrily. "What are you talking about?" I replied, shocked by his tone. Don't play dumb with me, Caitlin. My parents yelled at me after you left, and the guests felt sorry for me because I'm married to you, he said harshly. Are you serious? What about how embarrassing it was for me? The way your parents and everyone else treated me was awful. I shot back. Oh, come on, Caitlin. You could have put up with it for one night. It was my parents' anniversary. For God's sake, he said, clearly more concerned about his parents than about me. I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. Instead of understanding how hurt I was, Adam blamed me for leaving. It made me question everything about our relationship and whether he would ever truly stand up for me. I said to Adam, I was ignored by everyone, and your parents made fun of me during their toast. How can you expect me to be okay with that? I'm not saying what they did was right, he replied. But you could have just gone along with it for one night. I would have talked to them about it afterward. What would that have done for me? I asked, frustrated. I don't like being in situations where I'm humiliated. Everyone was laughing at me. You've never been in that position, so it's easy for you to say it's no big deal. Adam's expression hardened. My parents expect an apology from you, he said firmly. I want one too, I shot back, refusing to back down. I won't apologize unless they apologize to me first. Adam's face turned angry. I see no reason to apologize to you. You embarrassed my family in front of all their guests. And your parents humiliated me, your wife, in front of everyone. I exclaimed. Maybe my parents were right about you, Adam said bitterly. You're impossible, he snapped before heading to the guest bedroom to sleep. I was stunned. Adam was usually the first person to stand up for me, especially when his parents said something hurtful. For me to leave the party should have shown how awful they had made me feel. But this time, it was like he didn't care at all. Adam didn't talk to me for the entire week. Meanwhile, his parents bombarded me with texts calling me ungrateful and an embarrassment. I tried to reach out to Adam, but he refused to respond. Eventually, I decided to apologize to Adam and his parents, even though it felt humiliating. I loved Adam and didn't want this to ruin our relationship. However, things only got worse after that. Adam's parents retired and began hosting family dinners every week. Adam was always invited, and after some time, he brought me along to one of these dinners. I hoped things would be different, but as soon as I stepped into their house, I could tell nothing had changed. Jessica and Sam greeted Adam warmly, but when they saw me, their smiles disappeared. They didn't say hello or even acknowledge me. As the evening went on, the other family members followed their lead. Conversation stopped when I joined a group, and no one made an effort to include me. By the end of the dinner, I felt completely out of place. The message was clear. They didn't want me there, and they wanted me to feel it. Adam noticed my discomfort, but didn't say anything. I started to realize that maybe this was how things would always be. It was heartbreaking to think that I might never truly be accepted by his family. Even worse, I didn't know if Adam would ever stand up for me the way I needed him to. I could feel the tension in the air as soon as I stepped into Adam's parents' house. Jessica was still upstairs getting ready, so she didn't see me at first. Sam and Adam's siblings gave me awkward glances, but didn't say a word. Adam left me standing there alone while he happily caught up with his family. When Jessica finally came downstairs, she saw me and marched over, looking furious. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "Excuse me?" I replied, confused and taken aback by her tone. "No, I will not excuse you. What are you doing in my house right now?" she demanded. "Well, you invited us for dinner," I said, trying to stay calm.
Wrong.
I invited Adam. "This is a family dinner," she said sharply. "I'm Adam's wife, so I'm part of this family, am I not?" I asked, trying to reason with her. "Absolutely not," she shouted. "An orphan like you has no place in this family." I was shocked and hurt. "What? Why would you say that? Did you think you could hide that from us? We do background checks on anyone our children marry. You're not in my son's league. I will never accept you," she said coldly. "Why not? Is that the only thing that matters to you, someone's background?" I asked, my voice shaking. "You're ugly and poor. You'll never fit into our elite circles," she sneered. "Why are you being so superficial? Are you scared I'll ruin your reputation just by being here?" Doesn't it matter to you that I make your son happy? If happiness made someone rich, then everyone would be billionaires. This is why you'll never fit in with us, Jessica said dismissively. Or maybe I don't want to fit in with people like you, I said, trying to hold back tears. You never even gave me a chance. You judged me without knowing anything about me. Jessica didn't even flinch. That's enough. Here's some money. Call yourself an Uber and leave, she said, shoving cash into my hands. I turned to Adam, hoping he would defend me. Instead, he just stood there, saying nothing. His mother smirked and my heart sank. Tears filled my eyes as I turned and walked out, feeling completely crushed. In the Uber ride home, I couldn't stop crying. I didn't understand why Adam had changed so much. Was this his way of making things right with his parents after the party? Whatever it was, it hurt deeply. He let his family insult me and my past, and instead of standing up for me like he used to, he defended them. I wanted to scream, but I knew it would only make me look worse and prove their judgments right. I replayed the conversation in my head, wondering if I had said anything wrong. But I hadn't. I had calmly stood up for myself, yet I was the one being punished. When Adam finally came home, he didn't say anything to me. He just ignored me again. My heart was breaking, and I had never felt so alone. I knew Adam wanted me to apologize again, but I just couldn't do it. Jessica had insulted me in the worst way, and instead of standing up for me, Adam was mad at me for defending myself. If anything, I felt I deserved an apology from him. For the next 3 weeks, Adam and I didn't speak to each other. At first, it was hard, but eventually I got used to the silence. Adam continued going to the weekly family dinners, and I stayed home alone on those evenings. Honestly, I didn't mind. One of those nights, my parents video called me. "Hey, honey," they greeted cheerfully. "Hi, sweetie, how's it going?" my dad asked. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, Mom," I replied. "Things aren't great." "What's wrong, sweetie?" "If you need help with anything, you can always count on us," my mom said kindly. "I don't think this is something you guys can fix, but thanks for offering," I replied. "Where's Adam?" "Isn't he helping?" my mom asked. "That's the thing. He's part of the problem," I admitted. "Oh, sweetie, can you explain what's going on?" my dad asked gently. "Well," I began, "his parents are very wealthy and super snobby." "Oh, I can't stand people like that," my mom said, sounding upset. "Exactly. They think I'm just some poor girl who doesn't live up to their standards or fit into their fancy circles," I continued. "And they've made it their goal to embarrass me every time I see them." "What?" "That's ridiculous," my mom exclaimed, angry on my behalf. "Yeah," I said with a sigh. "The last time I went over, Adam's mom called me an orphan as an insult. She thought it was funny." "That woman," my mom shouted. "How dare she say that about my child? I swear, I'd claw her face off if I could." "Do they even know about us?" "No," I said quietly. "I didn't tell them about you because I didn't want their opinion of me to change just because of our family's wealth. I wanted them to like me for who I really am, not for money." "So, what's Adam doing about all this?" my dad asked, sounding concerned. "Nothing. He's siding with his parents and thinks I was wrong for standing up for myself," I said sadly. My mom took a deep breath. "Honey, are you sure this is the man you want to spend your life with?" "I love him a lot," I admitted, "but this isn't the life I want." We haven't spoken in 3 weeks, and honestly, I'm surprised by how okay I am with it. "All right, sweetie," my mom said gently. "I'll connect you with one of my friends over there if you need help. Don't worry, we'll always be here for you." Hearing their support made me feel a little better, but deep down, I knew I had some tough decisions to make. "I think your dad and I might be able to help you get a little sweet revenge," my mom said with a mischievous tone. "Huh? What do you mean?" I asked, intrigued. "Well," she began, "your dad and I are coming to visit next week. We originally wanted to take you and Adam on a vacation, but now we can do a few other things without him." "Really? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see you both again," I exclaimed. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in a while, I felt genuinely happy. We talked for a little longer, and my dad began explaining his plan to help me. After some time, He asked where Adam's family dinners were being held. As far as I knew, they alternated between being hosted at Adam's parents' house and at different restaurants. Coincidentally, the week my parents were coming, the dinner was scheduled to be at a restaurant. I needed to find out the exact location to share it with my parents. Thankfully, I had Adam's email on my phone. Jessica and Sam loved sending emails about every little detail, so it wasn't hard to find the dinner's location. Once I had the address, I sent it to my parents. At the same time, my mom's lawyer friend reached out to me, and we started the process of filing for divorce. It was a bittersweet moment, but I knew it was the right step for me. When my parents arrived in town, they checked into their hotel, and I went to meet them. We had lunch together, and afterward, they treated me to a spa day. They paid for everything and said I deserved to feel special. While I relaxed, they began preparing their plan to confront my in-laws. That evening, my parents walked into the restaurant where Adam and his family were dining. According to my dad, when they approached the table, Jessica and Sam whispered nervously to each other, clearly recognizing him. My mom later told me how the conversation unfolded. "Hello," my dad greeted them politely. "Oh my gosh, Mr. Olivier. What brings you here?" Jessica asked, visibly uncomfortable. "I just happened to notice some familiar faces and thought I'd stop by to say hello," my dad replied with a smile. "Familiar faces? Who are you referring to, Mr. Olivier?" Sam asked, trying to act confused. "Well, I see Adam here," my dad said. "Hello, Adam.
It's a pleasure to meet you. My daughter has told me so much about you."
"Speaking of my daughter, where is she?" "Your daughter? I'm sorry, but I don't think she's here," Sam stammered. "She should be, shouldn't she? Adam's wife is my daughter, after all," my dad said firmly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Olivier, but there must be some mistake," Jessica added. "Adam's wife is named Caitlin, and she was an orphan." "Yes," my dad replied calmly. "And that's why we adopted her." Jessica and Sam were stunned. They didn't know what to say as my dad began addressing the way they had treated me. It was clear my parents were there to stand up for me, and for once, Jessica and Sam couldn't hide behind their arrogance. "I see the problem. It's you," my dad said firmly. "No, she was the one who hid this from us. If we had known, we would have treated her better," Jessica argued. "She didn't want you to treat her nicely because of her background," my dad replied. Then he handed Adam the divorce papers. "She asked me to give these to you." Without another word, my dad walked out. After that, it only took a few phone calls for some of Sam's biggest investors to pull out of his business. It was satisfying to see their empire fall to the level they had once mocked me for. I got several texts from Adam's family. Some called me terrible names, while others begged me to talk to my dad and stop whatever he was doing. Adam, however, signed the divorce papers without any trouble. Once everything was settled, my parents and I went on a long vacation. It was exactly what I needed to start feeling like myself again. I had so much fun and began to heal from everything that had happened. It hurt to lose someone I once loved so deeply, but I learned an important lesson. I need to stand up for myself, no matter what. I'll always be thankful to my parents for supporting me through it all, and I'm excited to see what new adventures life has in store for me.